This is Andi Purewal for Boxing News. I'm joined by trainer Jamie Moore here in Manchester. Jamie, always good to see you. How is life treating you?
Yeah, can't complain, mate. Busy bee.
Certainly seems to be. Obviously, you've got Jack in today with Aki. We're both getting ready for their fight. Chantal meant to be here, but she's not. But yeah, just to start off with Jack, how's he looking ahead of his bout with Jorge-Linares?
Yeah, mate. He's I've said it for ages now. He's always in the gym. He's always ticking over, but he's looking so much better now because he's active. He's getting them rounds in. You know, he's come off the Foley win, so he's got activity now. Straight into the gym the week after, and he's just carried that momentum on. So you can see it in his sparring now. His timing and his judgment of distance, he's getting better and better, and it's always been good. So activity is definitely going to be beneficial to him, and I'm expecting a big performance.
Jamie, obviously there were critics for when this fight was announced with Jorge-Linares, not against Jack, but more so because Jorge isn't the fighter that he once was. He's obviously suffered a few defeats back to back now. Do you understand why people would have maybe liked to have seen Jack face somebody a bit fresher, or somebody who they would expect to maybe pose a few more problems?
Yeah, of course, but I get it. Listen, I've been around this game for years and years, and these situations come up every now and again because the right opponent has got to be available at the time. They're not going to have their own fight scheduled. So the risk reward, he's got to be right. The money, he's not always there for the type of opponent what you'd like. So Linares is a name. He's not the fighter he was, but I'm just glad Jack's active. Jack's busy. He's fighting. So we wanted Prograis. In an ideal world, Jack would be preparing to fight Prograis. So it's not like he doesn't want to be involved in them type of fights. It's just that there wasn't available, and Linares was the name, and it keeps Jack busy, which he's active, which I'm happy about. And then hopefully, if Prograis fights Haney, which apparently is not a done deal, but if they do, then I want Jack to fight the winner. And if it doesn't happen, then I'd love him to fight Prograis straight away.
It seemed like obviously that Prograis fight was close at one point up until all the Devin Haney talks came about. On the back of his performance against Zorilla, was there somewhat of a sense of frustration that you couldn't get that fight over the line because it wasn't Regis' best performance, and it's raised question marks over whether or not maybe if he's on the decline?
I just think if he'd have put in a career best performance, we'd have still wanted that fight. It wouldn't have mattered how he performed. It was just the fact that I want Jack. I've said this again loads of times, that I'm confident Jack beats any fighter at 140. So regardless of his performance, coming off a bad one or a good one, I'd have still wanted him to fight him.
What are you hoping he shows against Jorge-Linares? And stylistically, would you imagine that because of the type of fight Linares is, it's the perfect style for Jack?
I'd say so. He's dangerous still. He can still punch, but he's just not quite the fighter he was 4 or 5 years ago. So it's dangerous in terms of he can't afford to switch off. But I fully expect Jack to put in a dominant performance and show people why he's the best 140 fighter in the world.
We've mentioned 140. Certain Josh Taylor will always be mentioned. You've obviously got Sam Jones in the gym, who's had his back and forths with Josh over social media. You don't tend to get involved in that, Jamie, unless obviously you're asked about it. But what have you made of this continued rivalry, the back and forths between Team Taylor and Team Catterall?
Listen, I've said this loads of times. I've always respected Josh Taylor. I've always got on with him. It's the stuff what happened after his fight with Jack is what happens in boxing when controversial decisions happen. But it's just the game we're in. It is what it is, and I don't get involved because I don't let emotion get involved of stuff like that. You can't, especially as a coach. You've got to be focused on what you're doing. Josh Taylor fight with Jack is always going to be there because of what happened. Because the boxing fans would like to see it again. So if Jack can't get Prograis or a world title shot, then that's a great fight for the boxing fans, and I'm sure it'll happen. I don't know if it'll be happen soon or in the next 12, 18 months, but it's definitely going to happen again.
I mean, I don't know whether it aligns with your plans, especially on the back of that final comment there, but Eddie has said maybe early next year we do see the Josh Taylor rematch. Josh has made his intentions a bit more clearer now about moving up to 147. Happy if Jack was to move up and take that fight at 147, or do you think it needs to be a catchweight, or if possible at 140?
Well, Jack's for the foreseeable future still 140. So again, if Josh is going to move up, then Josh is going to move up. Jack's not going to chase Josh Taylor up to 147 to chase that fight, because that's not what he wants to do. If the fight makes sense, then we'll do it. I'd love, actually, if Josh is going to go up and Josh wins a world title at 147 and Jack wins a world title at 140 and then moves up, then it's a huge fight, makes the fight even bigger. If they both fought at 147 now, it's still a big domestic fight with no title on the line. So imagine how big it'd be if that sort of situation unfolded. So it's going to be a big fight regardless, but I'd like it to be bigger for them both, because the bigger it is, the bigger financial incentive for them both.
Jamie, obviously, away from Jack and Josh talk, Akib Fiaz getting ready for a massive fight and one which everybody's looking forward to.
Yeah, I'm glad. I always said it'd be a little bit sooner than your average prospect coming through that I'd step up. He's had them tough tests at a certain level, and he's always sort of took the lessons on board and progressed and improved from them. And his style's great to watch. He's always in exciting fights, and Bellotti is sort of similar not similar in style, but similar in that sense where he's always in good, exciting fights. But I think Akib maybe's got a natural size advantage on him, and I think all round his boxing ability is probably a little bit better. So it's a good step up for him. It's a test. He can punch Bellotti, and it's Commonwealth titles on the line. It's a final eliminator as well for the British title. So I'm excited for him because he's had that apprenticeship. He's had the little scary situations where he's been put down, and he's had to take those lessons on board. He's navigated tough situations in fights before he's took that step up. So if and when they come now, when he steps up, he's not going to be the first for him. So he's going to deal with them better.
But he obviously had to come through the fire in the last fight when he did get dropped, and had to see out those couple of rounds. And with that in mind, how much better prepared do you feel he will be mentally, being able to stay focused going into a Reece Bellotti fight? Because as you mentioned, he can be dangerous, and Reece can, he does possess power.
Yeah, listen, Costin Ion is a dangerous opponent. No one will fight him. We accepted that fight on the knowledge that he was a dangerous fighter, but knowing Akib would have to be spot on. He would probably come through situations like that, but it'll make him a better fighter in the future. That's the reason why we did it. So I hope it's not as tough. The Bellotti fight is. I hope it's not as tough as the Ion fight. And it shouldn't be, because of the lessons he's took on board. Really, Akib was in control of that fight, even though he was a dangerous fighter, and got overconfident. And that's one of the lessons you've got to take as a prospect coming through, is no matter how much in control of a fight you are, you can't get overconfident, because one mistake, and that's what happens, you end up on the floor. So probably the perfect lesson at the perfect time for him.
Jamie, Chantal, she's not here today, but obviously she's getting ready for that rematch with Katie Taylor. There was a lot of talk from yourself, from the team, that you would have liked it to have been at 135 for her titles instead of 140, and you'd have liked it to maybe be a bit more neutral ground. How did everything come about eventually, basically ending back up in the same area where you you retained those titles, and how you wasn't able to get the 135 titles on the line?
Well, we just got told point blank that it was going back to Dublin. It made sense there, and is it fair? No, but life's not fair. So Chantal has to go back to Dublin again, but she's done it before. It's not like she can't do it, and it's done now. So we have to get our head around it and crack on. We got told the reason why it wasn't going to be for Katie's titles was because Katie didn't want it to be at 135, because she didn't want any excuses if she beat Chantal. So I sort of understand that if it was from her point of view, but we actually asked for it because Chantal is a lightweight, really, can still make lightweight, and only went to super lightweight for the opportunity to win a world title. So listen, it doesn't matter. It is what it is. I do think when Chantal wins again, she should be given opportunities to achieve things at other weight divisions, because she sort of achieved all she can in this one, and she's given opportunities to the undisputed champions either side of her weight division. So she's no spring chicken. She's 31 now, and she's probably got a couple of years left, and then she'll be finished. So I'd like her to be a multi-weight division champion and achieve as much as she can, and she can only do that if the opportunities are given her. So she was contracted to this rematch, but I understand it was probably the biggest fight for her anyway, even if there was no contract there for the rematch. So it's a great fight. I'm sure Katie Taylor's going to come better, but I know for a fact Chantal's going to be better, because she now knows she can beat Katie, and she didn't know that before, and she's got full confidence in herself now, which she's always sort of been unsure sometimes going into fights, and now she knows she can beat Katie. So you're going to see a different animal.
Chantel comes through and she has her hand raised again. She retains her undisputed crown at 140. Would she entertain a trilogy bout with Katie, despite having 2 victories, if you could get a fight at 135 for Katie's titles on the line?
That's a good question. I think it would depend on how the second fight goes. So,
Let's say it was a similar outcome and as tight a fight as what the first one was.
so if it's a similar type of fight, and if I had Chantel either 8-2 or 7-3 at worst. If it was that type of fight, if people was calling for it, if it was on neutral ground, yeah, then I'm pretty sure that Chantel would say, yeah, we'll do lightweight. So yeah, depends on the manner of the victory.
Do you think we see more of an emphatic victory next time?
Yeah, I do. Do you know what? I said loads of times I'm a huge Katie Taylor fan. I always have been, and rightly so. But Father Time waits for no one, and as much as we was unsure whether she was on the slide, and we're still unsure whether she's on the slide, because I know how good Chantel is, but that is a lot of miles on the clock. That fight against Chantel last time is a lot of miles on the clock, and I don't want Kate to go on for too long. I'd like her to sort of go out with maybe even still as a world champion. If it goes as I anticipate it to go and Chantel wins again, then I'd like Katie to sort of go, you know what, we tried, and rightly so. She's such a good sportsman, and like that competitiveness inside her is never going to go away. But if it comes to pass that we win again, then I'd like us to walk away and just go, you know what, it just wasn't meant to be.
You've got your heavyweight charge, Dave Allen, returning this weekend. How's Dave settled back into camp and a full-time training camp, should we say that?
But better than he was last time. I mean, he's really in a good place, and having that sort of mental state of a fighter, being in a good place going into a fight is always a bonus. And him having a kid, becoming a dad has given him that drive and determination. I know what it's like. You can't sort of explain the feeling you get, but you have a higher incentive to do it than you did before. And he knows Frazer. They've sparred loads and loads of rounds together, so there's going to be no feeling out process. And we know it's going to be a tough fight, but I'm a big believer in Dave Allen. I know when he's on it, when he's fit, he's rarely been properly fit for a fight when he's boxed. So a fit Dave Allen is a dangerous fighter. So and he's applied himself great. We've set him out some tactics, and he's following through with it when he's sparring. So I'm excited for him.
The last time Dave fought somebody with a similar type of amateur pedigree of what Frazer has is the David Price fight. After we saw how that fight ended up going. How confident are you that going in there with Frazer, Dave can upset the odds? How does he go about kind of defeating somebody like Frazer Clarke?
I think it's a different type of fight than the David Price fight. Stylistically, it's a much different fight. So Frazer's got different attributes, and he's fresh into the pros, whereas David Price was an experienced pro at that point. And I've said this a few times as well. The amateurs, being a successful amateur doesn't guarantee you're going to be a successful pro. And Frazer's actually older than Dave. So Dave's younger than Frazer Clarke. So, going into a fight as the more experienced fighter, but with sort of less at a younger age. I know Dave's got a lot of miles on the clock in terms of the tough fights he's had, but so's Frazer, and not in the pros, in the amateurs. But he's been around the world, and he's fought against the highest opposition in the amateurs for many years. So it's an exciting fight. I think it could be fight of the night on that bill.
Jamie, I have to ask, obviously you've always been somebody who's looked out for and had your fighter's best interests at heart, and you've been commended on that on a number of occasions for when you've kind of had to step in, maybe throw the towel in and what have you, pull fighters out of a fight. Dave Allen initially retiring a few years ago, and he kind of mentioned how he wasn't enjoying being hit in the face anymore, wasn't enjoying being punched. We all saw that Alexander Usyk spar where he kind of got, I don't want to say stopped on his feet, but obviously wobbled forwards and Alexander stepped back. Are there any concerns that he should not be stepping back into the ring, because it's been a big talking point?
Well, no, not from my point of view. As long as he's passed his scans and he's healthy, That's all what matters in terms of from a health point of view. I'm not talking about Dave Allen here. I'm talking about any single fighter what comes through my doors in the gym and asks me to help them out. I will look after the best interest no matter what. That everybody's health comes first and foremost. So it's not even a question of because of what's happened in the past, will you take extra care of Dave Allen? Because it's not even a question. I'll take care of Dave Allen anyway, regardless of his history. Like I'll take extra care of Cameron Vyong, who's having his pro debut on October the 7th. I'll take care the same way as I'll take care of Dave Allen. I'll take care of him as well. Everyone's in this sport. This is the most dangerous sport in the world, and the last thing you need is a brave coach.
Jamie, just moving forwards and moving away from this fight, to get your thoughts on a few other topics. Main event for this weekend: Liam Smith, Smith-Eubank Jr. Repeat or revenge?
I think repeat. Eubank is not getting any younger. I've got a feeling the weight's an issue, and I think on the flip side of it, Liam Smith moving up to middleweight at this stage and age of his career is a good thing. I think Liam's attributes are underrated. I think he's such a wily old fox in terms of the way he goes about his job. He sets traps and he allows people to gain confidence to put himself in a position where he can take advantage of it. So he's very clever in what he does, and I don't know if Bomac, who's a phenomenal trainer, is going to have anywhere near enough time to make an impact on the way Eubank is going to perform. So I see it maybe going a little bit longer, but I see the same result. I see Liam Smith probably getting a stoppage.
This past weekend we saw Alexander Usyk retain his unified heavyweight crown, Jamie out in Poland. A couple of big talking points from that fight. First one being, did you think it was a low blow?
Yeah, I did. The one from the footage I've seen, he goes low, and no one will ever know the definitive answer to it. So, people going around in circles still talking about it nearly a week later. It's like, listen, the ref called it a low blow, regardless of whether it was or not. I don't think it was going to alter the pattern of the fight because I do believe that if the referee would have started counting, Usyk would have got up. But yeah, to me it looked low.
Joyce Zhang 2, Jamie, do you think Joe Joyce will reverse that initial result?
You've got to take your hat off to him for going straight back in there with him. I thought, Joe Joyce, for me, I always thought only had sort of one way to fight, and he surprised me when he boxed Dubois because he altered his style a little bit, which then afterwards I was thinking, well, maybe he was a bit sort of stupid to think that because he was a very successful amateur. If he can adapt to what he did wrong last time, then he's got a chance. But sometimes people just aren't great with southpaws, and maybe that's the thing with Joe Joyce. Is maybe his best attributes aren't great with southpaws, but I hope he does. He seems like a nice guy, Joe Joyce, and he's British, so I'll always support someone who's British. And yeah, it's a good fight. I'd set me out to him for taking it because he didn't have to take this straight away.
Jamie, it's tough as for anyone when they move up in weight, but Canelo, Charlo, do you fancy Jamal Charlo's chances at all?
I just said this before, Charlo's huge for the super welterweight, and Canelo used to be a super welterweight, so it's not like Canelo's been a career-long, natural, big guy. Probably Charlo's going to be the bigger guy on the night, and I don't know whether he's got the right style to give Canelo problems, that sort of walk-down pressure style. But at this stage of his career, who knows what Canelo's got left? He's had some tough fights recently, and he's had that loss to Bivol. He was a bigger, natural guy, but he was very sort of technically astute. So it's a great fight. I think it's a really good fight, and I think a lot of people at the time are sort of going, Charlo's coming up 2 weight divisions, but I don't think it's going to be an issue. I think it's going to be really well balanced.
Final one, Jamie, it's something which I know you've always been vocal about. If asked PEDs within boxing, obviously recently we've seen a number of positive tests return. Most recently we saw Robert Helenius, who was a replacement for Dillian White, who had failed the test, come in, and then subsequently he's failed the test as well. What did you make of the fallout around that and all these other names which have come up recently who have returned adverse analytical findings?
Well, I think for one thing, the way we've got to look at it is this. People failing tests is a good thing because it means that they're getting more stringent and more people are getting caught out. I don't think it's a case of more people are taking them, because there's been these rumours going around for years that it's rife in many places across boxing. But the fact that they're getting caught is a good thing for me. My problem with it is the fight's still taking place. If the return an adverse finding, the fight should be cancelled. They shouldn't be allowed to box. There shouldn't be a time period where we go, okay, they failed the first test, but we haven't got time to test the second sample until after the fight. Ridiculous, because if something, it's going to take a fatality to happen for somebody to go, we need to do something about this, and it shouldn't take that. They should be done beforehand. So, good. VADA or whoever's doing the UCAD, whoever's doing the testing, are doing a better job now, but the protocol afterwards needs to be improved, because these fights can't be taking place. God forbid something would have happened to Andy Joshua, and then, these blood on people's hands. This shouldn't be happening.
All right, Jamie, listen, I appreciate your time. I know there is a massive queue which is formed outside his door, so I do not envy you. It's going to be a late night for you. I don't think the family's going to be happy with the time that you get home, but it's good to see you, and I'll hopefully see you soon, and good luck on Saturday.
Thank you, mate. Cheers.